MTech needed 3 scoring attempts to finish 1 run on day 5. Twice, its aircraft lost altitude and came home. On the 3rd try, it carried 111.9 pounds through the loaded 4 miles, dropped the payload, finished the last mile, and landed with a 3.41 score. That moved Mech into 2nd place. Around it, aircraft flipped, smoked, bounced, and tested ideas that looked nothing like ordinary drones. Here is every meaningful day: 5, flight, test, crash, and result, without asking you to work through 7 hours of coverage. Day 5 began with Avidrone's 3.84 still leading the challenge. Xtreme Aerial Concepts held 2nd at 3.04, followed by MacGyver at 2.51 and H² at 2.32. The full price target remained 4 times aircraft weight. A loaded hover was not enough. A score still required 4 nautical miles with payload, a payload drop, 1 unloaded mile, legal altitude, and a controlled finish. Xtreme and H² put to proven helicopter layouts into the air at nearly the same time. Xtreme's aircraft weighed 54.9 pounds and carried 181.94, a projected 3.31. It completed the loaded leg, returned to the pad, shed the plates, and climbed again. The final unloaded mile made 3.31, an official improvement over its previous 3.04. H² followed with a 54.7-pound aircraft carrying 161.9 pounds. Its complete run produced 2.96 and moved the team ahead of MacGyver. These were course results, not static lift demonstrations. H² quickly reloaded for a more ambitious attempt. The overlay showed 181.9 pounds on a 54.3-pound aircraft, enough for roughly 3.35. It launched as a scoring run and initially looked steady. After about a minute and a half, the aircraft returned and set down instead of continuing the course. The completed 2.96 remained H²'s score for the day. Cactus Labs brought back Project Saguaro, a turbine-driven warm-cycle tip-jet rotor. The team spun the system on the ground but did not launch. Anopa Aerial made a brief flight high in the frame, then came down without beginning a completed scoring run. Sherman Aeronautics again used to fixed-wing aircraft connected by a steel cable. The pair repeatedly lifted a central load and circled it like a mechanical maypole. It was a real local flight test, but it never became a downrange scoring attempt. Hanumantum's coaxial octocopter made controlled local checks, including weighted testing and a smooth descent. Insky's compact aircraft had a much shorter outing. It lifted laterally, never settled into a stable climb, and came down hard near the pad. Alpine Combat also got airborne for only a moment. Its aircraft returned quickly with apparent damage around the landing structure, although the central frame stayed together. None of these flights added a score. The Ragin Cajuns from the University of Louisiana at Lafayette supplied one of the calmer development stories. Their multi-rotor completed several stable local flights. One return to the pad was nearly picture-perfect. The team did not start the scored course, but it left with repeatable takeoffs, control, and landings. Window 2 opened with several teams still clearing early technical gates. A Prad spun its enormous tip-driven rotor while hold-down plates kept the Hello Kitty-colored machine on the pad. It did not fly. The hovering owls from Florida Atlantic University completed a stable half-weight check with an autonomous tilt-rotor wing body. Kansas City Space Pirates prepared and spun another huge tip-driven rotor with a laptop and chair beside it. The broadcast never showed that aircraft launching. Falcon's attempt ended almost as soon as it began. The aircraft flipped on liftoff and broke visible propeller and support parts. Phoenix drones, tandem rotor machine, traveled farther before one side lost thrust. Smoke appeared, the aircraft rolled, and it fell downrange. Vertsolve began a scoring attempt even though its aircraft was already missing one landing leg. It dropped below the 100-foot floor before half a nautical mile, making the run invalid. Aptos Aero then developed a wobble, descended rapidly, bounced on impact, and stopped downrange. All four finished without a score. MTech's aircraft was conventional, compact, and only 32.8 pounds. With 111.9 pounds attached, the projected ratio was 3.41. The first scoring attempt covered about 1.1 nautical miles before altitude fell toward the floor. MTech aborted and brought it back. A second attempt later in the window also lost altitude and returned without completing the course. 2 tries had produced no new number on the board. MTech used the same 3.41 load for a third attempt. This time the aircraft held the altitude corridor through all 4 loaded miles. It returned, landed, released the 111.9 pounds, and launched for the unloaded leg. The last mile put the full course behind it. A controlled landing completed the score at 3.41. That moved mech ahead of Xtreme and into second place, 43 hundredths behind Avidrone. Happy Hellfire tested one of the day's most unusual concepts, combining a paraglider-like wing with a quadcopter frame. The plan was a 55-pound half-weight check before attempting forward flight. The machine lifted and immediately came back down. It never reached the transition the team needed, so the result was a failed check rather than a scoring attempt. Dmaterial did not add a Day 5 flight, but the broadcast revealed more about its inflatable structure. The team said the frame weighed about 3 pounds and had held 255 pounds in testing. They believe the same approach could eventually support 500 to 600 pounds. The accompanying flight footage came from an earlier day, so this was an engineering update, not a Day 5 result. A third flight window was supposed to begin at 2:30 Eastern. Weather pushed that to 3 o'clock. The official streams then changed to flight windows, paused until further notice. No third window aircraft flew, and the leaderboard was already final. Day 5 ended with Avidrone still first at 3.84. X 3.41 moved it into second, ahead of Xtreme at 3.31. H² held fourth at 2.96, with MacGyver fifth at 2.51. 3 teams improved the board, but nobody reached 4-1. The clearest lesson was persistence. Proven layouts captured the scores while the radical machines were still fighting for stable, repeatable flight. That is Day 5. 3 new scores, MTech into second, and the final window lost to weather. Day 6 begins with 3.84 still leading and 4-1 still untouched. The official main broadcast and lane views are linked below.